An unknown virus sweeps across the globe. No one knows where it came from. No one knows how it spreads either. The bodies of the infected slowly turn to stone, eventually crumbling into dust. Black people transform into black marble. White people turn into white marble. Even more bizarrely, the virus has an incubation period of several years. By the time humanity detected it, 2.5 years had already passed. The virus had already infiltrated every corner of society. 50% of the world's population was infected. This girl was unfortunately one of them. One day, she went to a friend's party. She got dead drunk and passed out cold. A man pulled a tattoo machine out of a drawer. On her arm, he inked a strange symbol, the letter A. The girl's name was Alpha. It wasn't until dusk that Alpha stumbled home, still half asleep. Her mother, Sophia, immediately dragged her to the bathroom to wash off the smell of alcohol from her body. Sophia scolded Alpha for going out drinking, while worrying non-stop about her safety. But when she took off Alpha's clothes, she spotted the tattoo on her arm. Panic washed over her instantly. Sophia worked as a nurse. She had seen countless patients die from the petrification virus. The virus was currently raging worldwide, and tattoo parlor needles were notoriously unsanitary. She feared her daughter had been infected. Furious, Sophia ordered Alpha to go to the hospital for a shot, but Alpha refused. She had hated getting injections ever since she was little. That night, she planned to climb out the window and run away. Unexpectedly, a strong wind began to howl outside. The scaffolding outside rattled violently. Alpha screamed in terror. Hearing her cry, Sophia rushed over and lifted her back inside safely. Mother and daughter lay in bed talking, feeling the warmth of Sophia's love. Alpha finally agreed to get the injection. The next day, Alpha went to the hospital where Sophia worked, but when she saw the nurse holding the syringe, her courage vanished again. The nurse thought Alpha was nervous about her injection skills, and offered to fetch Sophia to help. Alpha stopped her, grasped the syringe firmly, and jabbed it into her own arm. The hospital was swamped with samples. Testing hers right away would be impossible. The nurse told Alpha she wouldn't get the test results for 2 weeks. While Sophia was at work, she noticed the hospital corridors were completely empty. Just then, Nurse Molly walked in. Sophia hurried over to her and asked where all the staff had gone. Molly explained that, with no petrification virus vaccine in sight, the other nurses had all quit out of fear of infection, leaving Sophia alone to care for the patients. Sophia was furious, yet utterly helpless. As usual, she wheeled the meal cart to the wards to serve dinner to the patients. These were all severe petrification cases, completely unable to take care of themselves. When she reached Uncle Mo's bedside, she saw his body had already turned entirely to stone. With practiced ease, she removed the sensors from his body, covered him with a white cloth, and sent him off with dignity. Because she'd gone to get the injection that morning, Alpha was late for school. Her teacher Zoc clearly looked displeased. He told Alpha to come up to the front of the class to hand in her homework, but as she turned around, the wound on her arm split open. Blood splattered onto the wall. The whole class stared in shock. Alpha explained it was just a regular wound that had already been treated, but her classmates still feared she'd caught the petrification virus. Forced to pack her things, Alpha left the classroom. A classmate named Adrian chased after her. The two hid in the school bathroom. Adrian tried to take advantage of her, but Alpha pushed him away firmly. When Alpha got home, she found the house in disarray. The living room had been ransacked, and a new bed had appeared out of nowhere. She thought they'd been robbed. Just as she was about to call Sophia, she walked past the hallway and saw a gaunt man lying in the spare room. Terrified, she darted back to the living room and grabbed a knife from the drawer. When the man stepped into the living room, Alpha pointed the knife at him defensively, but the man told her not to be afraid. He said he was Sophia's younger brother Amin. At that moment, Sophia walked through the door. Alpha rushed over to her mother's side. Sophia confirmed the man's identity. His name was indeed Amin. Realizing he was her uncle, Alpha apologized for her earlier behavior, but Sophia didn't tell Alpha the whole truth. Amin was a drug addict. He'd gotten hooked on illegal substances when he was young. Once, he'd overdosed and nearly died. Sophia had saved his life, but after that incident, Amin had never come home again. Meanwhile, Alpha returned to the hospital for another blood test. There, she saw her teacher Zoc helping an elderly man walk in. The old man was Zoc's father. He too had contracted the petrification virus. Alpha greeted Zoc politely. After finishing her blood test, she went back to school to attend classes. But during volleyball practice, her wound split open again. Blood stained the volleyball. When a female classmate caught the ball next, she saw the blood on it and looked utterly disgusted. The teacher told Alpha to go to the infirmary to get it rebandaged. Then he tossed the blood-stained ball into the trash can. Isolated by her classmates, Alpha fell into deep depression. Even her friend Armin was afraid to get close to her. After school, Alpha and Sophia went to Grandma's house for a family gathering. It was Eid al-Fitr that day, but as soon as they reached the staircase, they saw two men passed out in the hallway. Sophia warned them sternly to stay away from Armin, or she would call the police. But the men, high on drugs, paid no heed to her warning. Because of Armin's drug problem, none of the family members greeted him during dinner. Midway through the meal, Alpha saw Armin walking to a spare room. Sophia followed him inside. Peeking through the crack in the door, Alpha watched as Sophia tried to resuscitate Armin. When Sophia turned around and saw Alpha, she closed the door abruptly. Just then, Grandma walked over. Alpha lied to her, covering for Armin. Grandma traced a gentle gesture on Alpha's face. It was a traditional blessing. When Alpha went back to school, the isolation from her classmates only got worse. Before swimming class, her classmates locked her in the bathroom, refusing to let her out. Enraged, Alpha threatened to spit on them all, to spread the virus if they didn't let her go. Her defiance infuriated the other students. Once Alpha finally got into the pool, a classmate snuck up behind her, grabbed her by the hair, and pushed her head underwater. Alpha tried to fight back, but accidentally slammed her forehead against the pool wall. Blood streamed from the cut, instantly turning the water around her red. The other students, terrified of being infected, fled the pool in a panic. When Sophia heard her daughter had been hurt at school, she rushed over immediately, but the principal didn't punish the students who had bullied Alpha. Instead, he suggested Sophia take her daughter home, because the school had received a flood of complaints from parents, all of whom were terrified their children would catch the petrification virus from Alpha. The principal told Sophia Alpha wouldn't be allowed back to school until her test results came back. Back at the hospital, Sophia went to check on Alpha's test results, but due to the virus's long incubation period, a blood test couldn't confirm 100% whether Alpha was infected, unless she started showing petrification symptoms. Helpless, Sophia took Alpha to an examination room. She checked Alpha's throat carefully. No signs of petrification there. She also checked her abdomen for the telltale petrification pain. Sophia was just starting to hope Alpha hadn't been infected, when Alpha suddenly broke into a coughing fit. Sophia stared at the stone dust at the corner of Alpha's mouth. She froze, completely stunned. Alpha noticed her mother's horrified gaze, walked over to the mirror, and looked at herself. She was equally shocked. She'd never imagined that she really had contracted the petrification virus. Sophia frantically pulled out her research files, desperate to find a cure. But the virus had been around for over a decade, and a vaccine was still nowhere in sight. As she sat there, overwhelmed with frustration, she saw her daughter and Armin lying in bed, convulsing violently, their bodies twisted into exactly the same position. Watching her daughter suffer, Sophia pressed her hand against Alpha's trembling fingers, making the same blessing gesture Grandma had used earlier. In a daze, Sophia's mind drifted back to the early days of the virus outbreak. Back then, crowds of petrification patients had flooded the hospital gates, but the hospital was already completely full. The security guards refused to let any more patients inside. The desperate crowd had grown agitated, sparking a riot. To calm the chaos, Sophia had rushed outside to intervene. She'd been furious at the guards' heartlessness, yet she knew the hospital really couldn't accommodate any more patients. But Sophia couldn't just stand by and watch people die. She'd broken the rules, letting a few critically ill patients inside. The hospital corridors had been lined with the bodies of patients who turned to stone, wrapped in black body bags. They'd been dumped there like garbage. No one had come to claim them. Doctors had tried every possible treatment to stop the petrification, but all their efforts had been in vain. Yet there was a glimmer of hope. Every person's body reacted differently to the virus. The speed of petrification varied wildly. For some patients, it only took a day to turn from coughing up stone dust to full petrification. For others, the process took years. What's more, patients infected with the petrification virus often experienced vivid hallucinations. Sophia's brother Armin had been among the first wave of infections. Back then, his entire back had turned to stone. When Sophia had tried to give him an injection, the blood had flowed endlessly from his arm. She'd been unable to stop the bleeding. Moments later, his petrified back had started to crack and crumble. Sophia had been forced to wrap his body tightly in canvas to hold it together. Sophia fetched a large bottle of water for Alpha, telling her to drink regularly to stay hydrated. Alpha didn't understand why she needed to drink so much water. She only took a few sips half-heartedly, but Sophia insisted on making her drink more, because during her years of treating patients, she discovered that staying hydrated could slow down the petrification process. But Amin knew it was a futile effort. The only real cure for the infected was a vaccine. He urged Sophia to accept reality. Now that Alpha was already infected, they should let her enjoy whatever time she had left. But Sophia refused to listen. She was terrified that if Alpha went outside, she would infect more people. The three of them argued fiercely at home. The fight ended with everyone storming off in anger. Fearing Alpha would run away, Sophia locked all the doors. That night, a depressed Alpha lay in bed, trying to sleep. Suddenly, a loud crash came from above her. The entire room began to shake violently. The ceiling started to cave in, slowly closing in on her. Just as Alpha thought she was going to be crushed to death, she jolted awake with a scream. It had all been a nightmare. Seeing how distraught Alpha was, Amin climbed out of bed and opened the window. Then he took her hand and helped her climb out. They went to a bar that catered exclusively to people infected with the petrification virus. For the first time in weeks, Alpha let herself go completely. All the pent-up stress and sadness poured out of her. They ordered drinks, sang and danced with the other infected patrons, partying until the sun came up. Amin told Alpha to do whatever she wanted, to live her life to the fullest, while she still could. Taking his advice, Alpha went to Adrian's apartment, but as the two of them grew intimate, Alpha spotted a tattoo on Adrian's back. It was the exact same symbol, the letter that she had on her arm. She pulled away from him, demanding to know where he'd gotten the tattoo. Adrian finally told her the truth. Alpha was horrified to realize that Adrian had been the one to tattoo her that night at the party, that the tattoo had been how she'd gotten infected with the virus, which meant Adrian was almost certainly infected too. Alpha begged him to go get tested right away. After leaving Adrian's apartment, Alpha got on a bus. To her surprise, she saw Amin sitting on it too. He took her hand and led her to the beach. Amin asked Alpha to do him a favor. Then he pulled out a bag of illegal drugs from his pocket. Alpha wanted to stop him, but she didn't know what to say. As she hesitated, Amin suddenly collapsed to the ground. Alpha realized something was terribly wrong. She pulled out her phone and called Sophia in a panic. Sophia rushed to the beach as fast as she could. In that chaotic moment, Sophia's memories flashed back to another time. It had been on this very same beach, in this very same hotel. Years ago, Amin had been in a hotel room, high on drugs. The young Alpha had wandered in and found him lying motionless on the bed. She'd thought he was just asleep, and had started drawing on his hand with a marker. By the time Sophia had arrived, Amin had been barely breathing. Thankfully, she'd had an epinephrine shot with her. She'd injected it into him, saving his life just in time. But soon after, Amin's condition had worsened, and his body had started to turn to stone. Watching her brother lying there, dying, Sophia had curled up beside him, weeping silently. But Amin had already accepted his fate, facing death with remarkable calm. His eyes had been filled with gratitude for everything Sophia had done for him. At first, Amin had wanted to kill himself. He'd refused to become a test subject for doctors to experiment on, to end up as nothing more than a cold, lifeless statue. But every time he tried to take his own life, Sophia had been there to save him. When Sophia finally opened her eyes again, she found herself back at home. Alpha was lying in the next room. It was then that Sophia finally realized a devastating truth. Amin had actually died 8 years ago. She had never been able to accept his death. Everything that had happened since Amin coming home, the arguments, the late-night escapes had all been nothing more than her delusions. The one who was actually infected with the petrification virus was not Alpha. It was Sophia herself. She had contracted the virus while caring for her patients at the hospital. Watching her mother break down in tears, Alpha sat down beside her and began to sing a lullaby. It was the same lullaby Sophia had sung to her every night when she was a little girl. Listening to her daughter's soft voice, Sophia finally let go of all her pain and accepted the truth. She took Alpha's hand, and together, they left the house, planning to go say goodbye to Grandma. But as they drove down the road, they saw a massive yellow sandstorm approaching in the distance. Dust began to cover their car's windshield within seconds. That dust wasn't ordinary sand. It was the remains of people who had turned to stone and crumbled into powder. Sophia's heart was filled with a flood of emotions. She pulled over the car and stepped outside. Alpha watched as Amin suddenly appeared beside Sophia. The two of them walked side by side, chatting like old times. But then, Amin's body began to disintegrate, turning into dust that was carried away by the wind. No matter how hard Sophia reached out to grab him, she couldn't hold on to him. When Sophia finally turned around, she saw that Alpha's face was covered in the same grey dust. She too was starting to turn to stone. In that moment, Sophia remembered everything. Grandma, all their relatives, even the neighbors. They had all been infected with the virus at the very start of the outbreak. The sand beneath their feet was the dust of all the people she had loved and lost. At long last, Sophia found peace and accepted the harsh reality of the world they lived in. If you followed the director's work from Raw to Titan, you'll know her most captivating signature. She treats the human body like a landscape to be carved and transformed. Last time, it was metal invading flesh. This time, it's marble, granite, and sand. The human body begins to petrify. Backs split open into jagged rock faces. Flesh slowly hardens into inorganic stone. It's a concept that is pure, unfiltered director's style. Disease is no longer just a line on a medical chart. It becomes a visceral, visual process, one that devours the body from the inside out. Ceilings cave in. Skin cracks like dry earth. Stone dust erupts from coughs. It's as if the human body is constantly on the verge of being turned inside out, of being returned to the earth from which it came.